Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford's EDC, trying out something new here, filming on my laptop instead of my phone. But today I'm going to be talking to you about the TRM Neutron. Specifically, this is going to be my long-term review of this guy. The Neutron, at least this iteration of it, released 3.5 years ago, released in October of 2020. And this exact knife is from the very first release that they did. Now, this doesn't have the original scales that I had on it. I had Amber Ale G10 scales that were from that first drop. I've since upgraded to the titanium scales, which you can see here have this nice, what they call lizard skin texture. You can see that up here near the bolster, not bolster, but near the pivot area. They don't come blasted like this. That's something I had done aftermarket, as well as the teal screws and teal pocket clip. But everything else about this knife is factory, and this has been a regular user of mine since I got it. Now, I was a big fan of the original Neutron, and I'm a huge fan of the Atom as well. So when the Neutron 2, which is it's no longer called that, this it had a million iterations differentiating it between the previous version of the Neutron and this current version. You really don't see the Neutron 2.0 listed anywhere anymore. As I said, it has been 3.5 years since this version of the knife released. So they're not calling it the Neutron 2 anymore, but I may reference it as that during this video. But again, I've had this for 3.5 years, and it has been carried not once a week for that entire period, but for a very long time. This and the Atom were essentially the only two locking knives that I regularly carried. I would say for at least 2 of the last 3.5 years. This saw my pocket most of the time. And now I'm not like a crazy hard user or anything. Most of you who watch my channel know that. I have your typical EDC type tasks where I'm opening boxes, cutting cardboard, cutting food, doing, simple little things like that. But I'll tell you what, this has held up tremendously and it's broken in like crazy. And I have nothing but good things to say about the folks at TRM and their products. Now, not everything is for me. I had a Shadow. I like the knife. I'm just not a big fan of axis locks. And I've had an Atlas, and I'm not a huge fan of the way that they do their slip joints. Just the way that the spring works. I have a more traditional, a better appreciation for more traditional builds of slip joints rather than the method they go about it. But the Neutron, with a 3-inch blade and 4-inch handle, is the perfect little EDC knife. I have a large size hand, and you can see how this fits in my hand. Absolutely no problem, thanks to this little finger choil right here. I'm gonna sneeze, excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. I'll try and cut that out if I remember. But this has this little finger choil area up at the front, which you can see kind of differentiated with this little nub right here. But because of that, there's just enough room to get a large size hand on there. And I can grab this in a full hammer grip or more of a saber style grip and have plenty of room on there for it to be comfortable. This, of course, is a thumb stud only opening knife, and this runs on washers. This is super broken in. These washers were polished at one point, but also everything is nice and broken in, so this is incredibly smooth. You can see even like left-handed here, little shake, you get it to drop, shake it shut. It's not going to be like tremendous custom level of action from the washers. Like you're not going to be having the action of like a Gareth Bull Shamwari on washers, for example, but this is still going to be incredible washer action. Same thing with the Atom as well. The liner lock has held up really great over time. You can see just where that's sitting there. We're looking at probably like 65% lockup. I hate talking about lockup percentages. It's not something that I think is relative to the conversation unless it's extremely minimal or it's well over, at that 100% mark. I really don't think there's any concern personally. But the lock has been perfectly fine. All the screws have been perfectly fine. Liners have been great. Thumb studs I've never had a problem with. They are small and they do have this kind of mushroom cap thing going on, which if you'd like, there are O-rings that you can buy that fit this. Not the ones on the TRM site. Those ones only fit the Atom and the Shadow, and those two have new thumb studs now, so they don't actually fit them. But if you happen to have a knife, an Atom or a Shadow with this style of thumb stud, it will fit those. But if you want to find thumb rings, the O rings for these guys, you're gonna have to find them through a different source. Let's see, what else are we gonna talk about? Going back to the handle, these scales are contoured. I'm hoping you can see that there. There's some contouring done to these. They offer flat scales as well, but in titanium they just have the contoured ones. And honestly, the contoured scales were a huge game changer. They made this knife so much better, in my opinion. Any handle material you choose, the contoured version is just better. I can't make that point any more clear that I do not like the flat scales that they make. They're they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that the contoured ones are leaps and bounds more ergonomic and just feel better in hand. So I would never personally, by choice, continually carry a knife with flat scales on it from them. I would always get myself a pair of the contoured scales. Micarta is usually my favorite handle material that they offer, but the titanium is really nice. This doesn't add a ton of weight to it. I don't have the exact weight, but this can't be more than 4 ounces with the titanium scales on it. It feels really nice weight wise in hand, and with lighter material like micarta or G10 or even carbon fiber, these knives are featherweights. They are super light and they just still feel great in hand. But I like the sturdiness and the kind of rigidity and the look of the titanium. There's nothing wrong though with any of those other scale choices because I used micarta on this for 2 of the 3.5 years probably. So nothing wrong with that as well. TRM's blade stock thickness is 0.09 inches, so it's plenty thin and slicey, and I've never had any issues with the blade stock in terms of use, never had any bending or major issues that way. They do a full flat grind, which is really nice and really well done. You can see really it's not even a full flat grind because this whole portion here is flat, not ground. From here forward, you have a full flat grind. You have almost a full height there, and this gets to a pretty damn thin edge, which has taken a really keen edge as well. 20 CV on the Neutron and the Atom and the Shadow, for that matter. They've recently done a run of Neutrons with Magna Cut, and I do have one of those at home. I just have not gotten around to getting a new set of scales for it. That has the flat scales, which I'm not a fan of. But 20 CV has been their go-to steel, and they use Peter's Heat Treat here in Pennsylvania for their heat treat, and they do a fantastic job. These edges hold up great, and they strap back nice and easy with a good strap. So this has had probably 2, maybe 3 full sharpenings done to it with my KME. I'm sure you can see how reflective that edge bevel is. TRM sharpens their knives like 17, 18 degrees, so it keeps the edge really thin. And I've never had any issues with this being chippy or wanting to roll for unexpected reasons. I did hit a staple with this when I first got the knife, less than a week of owning it, and I hit a staple going through a larger reinforced box. My dad's birthday was like the week before these released, and we got him a grill that year. So cutting out the box, I hit a staple, and now I'm just looking here. I'm gonna probably struggle to show off the scratch that's on this. I filmed this video like 4 times, not ever on the laptop, but yeah, I don't know how it's gonna come across. Their stonewash hides wear extremely well, minus like really deep gouges and scratches. You're gonna have to take my word for it, but there's a scratch that runs the entire width of the blade. It's very hard to show off, but there is one on there, and it does run the whole width of the blade. And I got one tiny little chip in the edge from when I hit that staple, and it sharpened right out. with no problem at all. Their 20 CV when sharpening, especially on the KME, doesn't feel like some of those really hard and kind of like shit M390s and 20 CVs that are out there. If you sharpen a lot, you probably know what I'm talking about. Some of those tend to feel like not like they're too hard. That's not at all the case. But they just don't feel like the stones interact with them the way you'd expect. This sharpens like a much softer steel, but holds the edge of a much harder one. A great example of that is Koenig. If you've sharpened an Arius, you kind of know how their 20 CV and M390 feels, and it doesn't feel good on a stone. Once you get an edge on it, it feels fine, but sharpening their factory bevel is kind of a nightmare. These are really easy to sharpen, and they hold a really great edge. So that is another big plus. The pocket clip that comes on these is kind of like, they call it the Horton clip, as like a nickname for it, because it kind of looks like an elephant, like an angry elephant with the trunk and the eyes. But it's a fine pocket clip. It's normally kind of a sandblasted look of a clip. It is not recessed or anything, just slaps on with 2 screws. And if you don't like the clip, they sell a non-deep carry clip that was from the first iteration of the Neutron. And there's also the option of using something like a Benchmade style clip or an Emerson clip. Any standard 3-hole clip will fit the Neutron. So that is good to know if you don't like the clip that comes with it. These are all right-handed knives, though the liners underneath are tapped for left-handed carry. The titanium scales are not sold for left-handed carry at all, and all the other scales, you have to drill your own holes. But as I said, the liners are tapped, so you can easily add holes to the scales, and you can have left-handed carry. But I don't know how much that matters to most people, considering it's only 10% of the population. So if you are one of those, keep that in mind. It's going to be pretty much a right-handed only knife. But I don't think that would be a problem, especially if you reverse flick, because you have plenty of thumb stud access if you are left-handed to reverse flick. And even the other side, the clip side, there's just enough there. You can get underneath it with no problem. I'm not left-handed, and I have no issues with this. And if you're right-handed, you can still reverse flick this as well. Some people struggle with it, but I think it's mostly just about getting underneath the thumb stud. Some people struggle to do that, but nevertheless, I don't think it's a problem. And once you get the hang of it, quite easy. I've been rambling now for 13 minutes and had nothing bad to say about this knife. I guess the only little takeaways that I have that could be negatives about this after this long, they can be a little finicky to center. So I'm going to show you mine here. Mine favors the show side, and there's pretty much nothing I can do about that. I have gone as far as, the only thing I really haven't done is swap the washers, and I can feel that there's a little bit of looseness going on right now, so this might even be corrected with a little maintenance. I can just feel that these 3 screws are a little loose because the scale is shifting ever so slightly. You guys probably can't hear that. Let's see if you might be able to. I don't really know where the microphone is on this thing, so maybe you hear that, maybe you don't. Anyway, that can affect the centering, but it's pretty easy to center these when they don't have the titanium scales on. But with the titanium, you don't have any extra flex in the liners or anything, so it's a little less forgiving. But TRM has a really nice guide on how to center their knives on the website. They use what they call the twig snapping method, which is quite literally taking your knife and bending it like this, like you're snapping a twig, and then looking at it shut, repeating, doing it while closed can help. For me, yeah, it's not really making a huge difference, but it's never bothered me because this doesn't rub or anything like that. And that's pretty much the only downside that I have for this guy. I mean, like I said, the thumb studs might not be everyone's favorite, and the pocket clip might not be your favorite. They've worked totally fine for me, and ultimately, I have had 0 gripes with them. The knife has done nothing but perform really well for my use and for my needs, And I'm going to continue to support TRM and buy products like this because they're made in the USA. They're a really great company that backs all their work. And overall, I mean, just a great product. That's the biggest thing. Is you can be a really great company and be American made and all these other things. And if you're not putting out a great product, I don't see the reason to support someone like that. It's like why I don't really buy Benchmades anymore. Not only have I kind of passed liking a Benchmade, just on a personal level, because the Axis style locks aren't my thing. But the quality for the price, I just don't feel like it's there as much as it is with something like a TRM. Nothing else bad against Benchmade or Spyderco for that matter. Same thing. I think you're getting more bang for your buck from a company like this because of warranty and because of the ease of reaching out to them, ease of making a claim, the support behind them. That it's a much smaller manufacturer and you're still getting something like this for a really great price. Neutron base prices are like $190 for G10. The MagnaCut one I just got, there was a small increase in price because of the price of MagnaCut. It was $216 with G10, and these are $300-ish with titanium scales. If they're already mounted. If not, you can buy the titanium scales separately and sell or trade or get rid of your G10 or micarta scales or whatever. That's a whole nother market because these have swappable scales. So you just remove these two screws and you can replace the scale with whatever other material you want. Another really great feature that TRM's knives have. So just another good thing for the Neutron. But yeah, 3.5 years of regular carry and really no issues at all. You put a couple drops of KPL in here and you're good to go. No issues whatsoever. It's very rare you find a knife like that sticks around for someone that they can't complain about anything. But here I am. And I'm picky. I'm picky about a lot of knife things. And this is one that really nothing has ever really bothered me enough to change it. One other little tiny thing I can think of is that this edge right here, right above my finger, that little corner, you can see how it sticks out slightly. It's comfortable on the titanium scales, not always comfortable on the micarta or the G10 scales. You can hit it with sandpaper for a couple seconds and round those edges off, and then it's perfectly fine, and you're good to go. I'm going to leave this one off here. 18 minutes of rambling is definitely enough. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Join the TRM Facebook group if you have more in-depth questions or want to learn a lot more. That's a great place to find information, and especially the information for drops and things like that when products are planned to be released. All that information is there. I've been in that group for well over 4 years now, and it's tons of great people and great information. So can't suggest that enough if you're interested in the TRM. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, and take care.